The episode opens with Robert interrogating someone to find the location of the man who killed his father. After finding where to go next, Robert changes into his superhero alter called Mecha Man. Robert infiltrates the steel factory only to find the guy which he was interrogating earlier. The villain changes into his alter ego called Toxic and starts fighting with Mecha Man. After a short battle, Mecha Man gets ambushed by a bunch of henchmen and several villains, and he gets trapped. At this point, the man who killed Robert's father, Shroud, appears and asks Robert to give up the Astral Pulse, the core that powers the Mecha Man suit, and he will let him live alive. Robert doesn't listen and puts all the mech power into his thrusters to escape. But as soon as he's in the air, a bomb planted on his back explodes and he plummets down in the city streets. In a news report, we find out that Robert's grandfather and father were Mecha Man before him. His grandfather died saving a young girl, and his father died when a member of his former team, Shroud, betrayed and killed him. In a press conference, Robert admits that his mech suit is destroyed and he does not have the means or knowledge to repair it, so he is going to retire. Later that evening, Robert stumbles across some masked men robbing a store, and even though he is severely injured, the hero inside him steps up and fights the goons. He gets overwhelmed and beaten up, and just when all seems lost, an angel descends from the skies and saves him. The angel introduces herself as Blonde Blazer and asks Robert to go out for a drink. At the bar, the two have fun and drink for a while, but when Blonde Blazer goes to the toilet, a former supervillain recognizes Mecha Man and threatens him. Robert quickly extinguishes the situation and leaves the bar. Outside the bar, Blonde Blazer picks Robert up and they fly across the city while enjoying the views. They stop at a billboard overlooking the Hollywood sign where Blazer reveals she knows Mecha Man's identity. Robert shares how after his father got killed, he sacrificed everything to become Mecha Man and, in a moment of vulnerability, kisses Blazer. Blazer makes an apology and states that she is sorry if she led Robert on. Her true purpose was to invite him to work at SDN as a hero mentor and dispatcher in return for repairing his mech suit. After a small dispatch test, which Robert aces, they say their goodbyes, and Robert promises to show up at the SDN offices next day. After a long day, Robert finally arrives home and confesses to his dog that there may still be hope for Mecha Man. This episode starts with Robert arriving at the SDN headquarters, where Blazer presents him with his new uniform. While changing in the uniform, Robert meets with one of the heroes that are on his team, called Invisigal. Blazer takes Robert on a tour of the offices, and while in the toilet, Robert also meets a hero called Royd, who shares that he is going to help repair his mech suit. In the records room, Robert gets surprised by a superhero who was on his dad team called Trackstar. They hug, reminisce about old days, and Trackstar tells Robert that his real name is Chase and he is going to help Robert on his first few shifts as a hero dispatcher. Chase then proceeds to introduce Robert to his heroes team and surprises Robert with the fact that his team is part of an experimental program called Phoenix, where former supervillains are given a second chance to redeem themselves as superheroes. After the slideshow, Chase shows Robert his workspace, and Robert starts work on dispatching heroes to different emergencies. In the middle of the shift, a break-in alarm goes off at Granny's, a donut shop. Invisigal goes on call. When she arrives, she finds Granny, an old man, unconscious. Robert taps into the security cameras, finds a villain in the back, and tells Invisigal to ambush him when he comes out. After a short battle, Granny somehow gets hold of one of the villain's weapons.
Roberts orders Invisigal to take out the villain, but she disagrees, and in the confusion, the villain manages to get away. Back at HQ, Robert has an argument with Invisigal. Invisigal defends herself because she did her best considering her life was on the line, and punches Robert in frustration. In blonde Blazer's office, Robert reports on his shift and is surprised to find out that except for the granny situation, the Z-Team had their best shift yet. Robert asks Blazer to be more involved and personal with the team if she wants the Phoenix program to work. After a long day, on his way out of the SDN building, Roberts bumps into blonde Blazer, which reveals that she is in a relationship with the most popular hero of the SDN program, the superhero Phenomaman.
The episode opens with Royd loading the parts of the ruined Mecha Man suit in a truck to take them back at SDN HQ. Once at HQ, Robert shows Royd his plan to not only repair the Mecha Man suit, but improve it. Back at his desk, Robert asks Chase to take care of his dog, Beef, when he is on shift. Blazer comes to take Robert to her office and shares that she has broken up with Phenomaman. Also, she wants to remove one member of the Z-Team based on a leaderboard to make the others more serious in their duties. When the heroes of the Z-Team hear about the leaderboard, they start to sabotage each other to get ahead and not get removed from the team. Invisigal and Malevola even start fighting while on call and let the Granny's villain get away the second time. Robert is furious and calls the team back to HQ. In the conference room, Robert reminds the team that if they truly want to redeem themselves and become heroes, they cannot do it by sabotaging each other. The Z-Team gets back on shift and everyone does a good job. At the end of the shift, there is a break-in at a jewelry store. Invisigal is the closest to the store, but she has given up, knowing that she is last on the board. Robert reminds her that even if she is last, she can still be a hero tonight. Also, one of the villains at the store is the one that got away 2 times before, and she can have revenge. At the store, Invisigal takes out the goons one by one, and Robert taps into the security cameras and helps her take down the villain called Lightning Struck. Invisigal returns triumphant at HQ, where everyone congratulates her. In her office, Blazer reveals that on account of her bringing Lightning Struck in custody, she moved up in the leaderboard, so now Robert has to choose between Coop and Sonar. Robert chooses to remove Coop on account of her past as an assassin. Coop does not take it well and threatens Robert. Invisigal thanks Robert for his help in keeping her on the team. The episode starts with Invisigal having a hot, wet dream about Robert. Back at the office, Robert gets pranked by Punch-Up because Coop was his friend and he is angry she was removed. Chase tells Robert that Blazer will give him the option to replace Coop by either Phenoman or Waterboy. Royd and Robert test the repaired Mecha Man suit, but the Astral Pulse overheats and fails. Blazer tells Robert that after breaking up with Phenoman, he got extremely depressed and got fired from his SDN branch. Blazer wants Robert to try and cheer him up so he can help with the Z-Team. Robert goes and succeeds in cheering up Phenoman a little. Invisigal confesses to Robert about her hot and steamy dream, to which Robert seems unfazed. The first shift is a bit hard since the team is missing a hero. At lunch break, Blazer asks Robert to choose which hero he wants on the team, and Robert decides on Phenoman, who we find that is an alien. When Phenoman finds out that he will be back on the job, he goes to find Robert and shows that he is extremely grateful by giving Robert a bone-crunching hug.
The team is apprehensive about Phenoman joining them, and he starts the shift poorly, but by the end, he recovers and helps the team in having a good shift. At the end of the day, Robert finds Phenoman, still depressed, watching clips of him and Blazer working together. He confesses that spending time with her was his highlight. Robert tries to cheer him up and tells him that he could find other things or persons to be passionate about, and that seems to uplift Phenoman. Robert receives a text from Blazer in which she tells him to meet her outside. Outside, Blazer reveals that her power comes from a jewel, and once she takes it off, she reverts to her true self. At first, she is self-conscious because she is shorter, weaker, and not blonde, to which Robert responds by kissing her deeply and telling Mandy, her true name, that he prefers her true self. Mandy is very happy because of Robert's reaction and invites him to dinner. They both have a great time together and spend the evening dining and chatting.
The episode starts with Robert training in the gym while remembering his previous encounter with Flambe. At the time, he was a supervillain. Blazer comes in the locker room and asks Robert out for a real date, to which Robert readily agrees and asks Blazer to come as her true self, Mandy. At lunch break, Prism and Malevola reveal that there is a bet between the team on what is Robert's superhero identity, and they ask him for a hint so they can win the bet, but Robert does not give them one. While working on the Mecha Man suit, Chase asks Robert if he would kill Shroud if given the chance, to which he responds that he would not. The team successfully finish a shift through a city-wide blackout, and to celebrate, they invite Robert to a bar called Sardine. Robert is apprehensive at first because Sardine is a known villain bar, but everyone asks, so he reluctantly agrees. At the bar, Robert goes and buys everyone a drink and confesses to Invisigal that in his past encounter with Flambe, he cut 2 of his fingers. At this point, one of the villains attacks Robert, and a bar fight starts between the Z teams and all the supervillains. The battle turns chaotic and bloody, but the Z teams bands together and they emerge victorious. The team stop at a Mexican restaurant to lick their wounds and grab a quick meal. Robert, grateful for everyone's help, feels that he should tell them his true identity. But after he does, Flambe gets incredibly angry, remembering their past encounters, and attacks Robert. Thankfully, Golem steps up and saves Robert, so Flambe just flies away. The episode ends with the team bonding and everyone sharing their real name. This episode starts with Robert testing another Astral Pulse prototype with the Z team supporting him. The test seems promising at first, but the pulse malfunctions again, and although Royd tries to rescue him, the Mecha Man suit explodes with Robert trapped inside. Robert wakes up in a hospital bed with Beef, Chase, and Royd sitting beside him. Royd sadly confesses to Robert that he cannot recreate the Astral Pulse. Robert returns to his desk and finds Blazer covering his shift. When she sees him, Blazer is very happy, gives Robert a big hug, and assures him that they will keep trying to repair his Mecha Man suit. The Z team is also relieved to hear Robert is okay. Back at his house, Robert reflects on his journey so far and seems to be accepting that he may never be Mecha Man again. Malevola, Invisigal, and Royd make a surprise visit, and they tell Robert that after the mech suit explosion, VC remembered hearing about several such explosions emanating purple smoke. Then she told Royd, who cross-referenced the Astral Pulse radiations with several incidents. Apparently, the original pulse was not destroyed in Mecha Man's first encounter with Shroud. The last radiation signature came from a warehouse in the city docks, and Invisigal is adamant that they should go there right now, before the Astral Pulse vanishes again. Blazer steps in and argues that they should make a plan before going in blind, since the warehouse is heavily fortified and armed. VC keeps pushing, but Chase steps in and reminds her that her actions could not only put her in danger, but the whole team. He calls her irresponsible, a criminal, and a thief,
to which VC responds by punching Chase and storming out. After everyone leaves the apartment, Chase comes back and tells Robert he is sorry. Robert tells Chase that maybe VC didn't have good role models around her growing up like he had him and his dad, so they should be her mentors now. Chase agrees and resolves to apologize the next day. As Robert passes by the computer, he sees that Invisigal went to the docks and is on a boat looking for the pulse. He calls her and orders her to retreat since she is not alone. A huge number of supervillains are also there looking for the pulse. VC refuses and tells Robert that this is his only chance to get the pulse. Finally, Robert concedes and directs her towards the captain's quarter. VC finds the pulse in a safe and takes it, but just as she is about to leave, Shroud appears, incapacitates her, takes the pulse, and leaves her to die in a cloud of smoke. Hearing the conversation, Chase uses his superpowers of lighting fast running and saves Invisigal. But as soon as VC is out of harm's way, Chase can only take a few steps before collapsing.
This episode starts with a flashback in which a young Chase is comforting younger Robert because he was sad on account of his father never being home. To uplift Robert, Chase goes and buys his favorite treat, Twinkies, which make him happy. Back in the present, it is revealed that Chase is in a hospital bed, in a coma. The Z-Team gathers in the boardroom and they have a discussion about what happened. They hold a vote and all but Gollum vote to kick Invisigal out because her recklessness put Chase in a coma. Robert thanks the Z-Team for their opinions and tells them that they have become a real superhero team. He continues that he will not be cutting Invisigal from the team because her actions may have been bad, but her heart was in the right place. In the locker room, Robert sees Invisigal. She's glad that Robert stood up for her, but seeing as the team wants her out, she decides to quit. Robert tries to convince her to not give up, but she cuts him off and reveals she uses Shroud's augments so she can control her asthma. She confesses she used to work for Shroud and that she was the one who planted the bomb on the Mecha Man. But as soon as she completed her task, her augments stopped working, so she signed up for the Phoenix program. Robert seems surprised, but he instantly forgives Visigal because those actions were done when she was a villain in the past. She is not that person anymore. Visigal seems surprised and relieved that Robert forgave her so easily, so she tries to kiss him, but Robert does not reciprocate his feelings. Robert goes to the bar to drink his stress away, but he gets jumped by none other than Coop. After she tortures him for a while, she reveals she now works with Shroud. Shroud threatens Robert with the gun that he used to kill his father and asks him to give up the astral pulse. Robert responds that he does not have the pulse, but Shroud shows him in video of Visigal grabbing the pulse before Shroud attacked her. At this point, blonde Blazer makes an entrance and threatens everyone that if they do not give Robert up, she will kill as many as she can before they can stop her. Shroud is impressed by Blazer and orders everyone to retreat, but reminds her that he will have his revenge soon. Robert thanks Blazer and remarks that this is the second time she saved him. They stop for a while so that Robert can recover for a bit. But just as the two reminisce about the first time they met, several explosions occur all over the city.
This episode starts at the SDNHQ with everyone trying to help through a citywide emergency. The explosions all over the city were perpetrated by the Red Ring, Shroud's team, and LA is on fire. Blazer has to go out on the field, and even Royd comes out to help as a dispatcher in Chase's place. Out of nowhere, Coop shows up powered by Shroud's augments and backed up by the Red Ring. She taunts the Z-Team to try and take her down. Some of the team tries, but fails because Shroud's augments made her too powerful. Blonde Blazer comes to help the Z-Team, and together they make Coop retreat and they save LA from the fires in Red Ring. But just as Robert is trying to congratulate everyone, the power shuts down at the SDNHQ. He and Royd run to check up on Chase, and thankfully, the backup is keeping his life support online. Robert hears noises in Royd's workshop and goes to find him and Vizzy fighting. Royd tells Robert he caught her trying to steal the Mecha Man suit and shows him the astral pulse she had. Vizzy responds that she was trying to take the suit and keep it safe so Shroud could not get to it. At that moment, explosions are heard outside the SDN HQ, and the cameras show Coop and the Red Ring coming in and taking everyone hostage. Apparently, they only retreated to deceive the Z-Team and attack SDN HQ. Royd tells Robert he hid the suit, and Robert asks him to go and save as many people as he can. He then goes and asks Vizzy why she didn't tell him that she had the pulse. Vizzy responds that she knew Shroud would target him to take the pulse and wanted to protect him. Robert responds that Shroud went after him anyway, and Coop tortured and almost killed him if Blazer had not shown up to save him. Vizzy apologizes to Robert and pleads with him to uncuff her and let her redeem herself to him and the team. Robert cuts her loose and sends her to help Royd fight the Red Ring while he goes to find his mech suit. Outside, Royd is fighting Red Ring goons, but soon he gets overwhelmed. Mecha Man shows up to save him in his new and improved suit. Robert's old enemies Toxic and Little Hands show up and threaten him to give up the pulse, but he refuses. At this point, a huge spider-shaped robot appears and is revealed that Shroud is controlling it. He tells Robert his dad helped build it and he should give up the pulse. Mecha Man refuses, attacks Shroud, but is soon overpowered by the sheer size of his spider bot, while Royd also gets pinned down by the Red Ring. The battle seems bleak, but out of nowhere the Z-Team appear and they save Mecha Man and Royd. But even the full power and numbers of the Z-Team doesn't faze Shroud, and he takes them down one by one because he knows their tactics and behaviors in advance.
Robert gets backstabbed by augmented Coop. She shows her rage to Robert and asks him why he cut her from the team instead of Sonar, but Blazer steps in and asks Coop to lay down her weapons and fight with her team again. Coop considers her offer for a few seconds, but Shroud's augments not only amplify her powers, but also her rage, so she keeps fighting Blazer. In the end, Mecha Man and Blonde Blazer's synergy overpower Coop's rage, and they bring her down, but Shroud comes back for Robert. Mecha Man keeps fighting Shroud, but he's clearly overpowered. Blonde Blazer tries to help him, but Shroud anticipates it and blasts her full power with an energy beam, knocking her out. Seeing their leader fall enrages the Z-Team, and they all attack Shroud, but he easily predicts their movements, repels their attack, and prepares to deliver the finishing blow on Mecha Man. Just as he is about to unleash the killing blow, a white flash streaks across the view, and Shroud's spider bot collapses. The white flash was Chase, recovered from his coma, with the power source from Shroud's bot in his hand. Mandy shows up and explains that she used her amulet to revive Chase so he could surprise Shroud, since no one knew the source of her power except Robert. Now, with the energy of Shroud's robot removed, the power of the Z-Teams overwhelms his robot, and Mecha Man delivers the finishing blow. He threatens to kill Beef unless Mecha Man gives up the astral pulse. Robert gives him the pulse, but he also gives him the prototype pulse and taunts Shroud to make a choice between the two. Shroud plugs one of the astral pulses into his brain and becomes incredibly powerful, but after some time, he starts to vomit and weaken. Now it is obvious to him that he made the wrong choice, and in his fury, he shoots Robert, but the bullet slows down before it hits him, and it is revealed that Vizzy was staying in front of him. While invisible, he beats him within an inch of his life, and when Shroud pleads for mercy, Robert snaps out of his rage and stops. He thanks her for saving his life and that he is proud that she turned her life around and became a real hero. He relents and lets Coop come back. Mandy tells Robert she is proud of how good of a job he did by forging the Z-Team into a true hero team. But Robert reminds her that he could not have done it without Chase, Royd, Beef, and most importantly, her, because she was the one that saved him and gave him another purpose in life when he thought he had none left. Hearing that, Mandy leans over and passionately kisses Robert. The whole series ends with the Z-Team celebrating together and immortalizing the moment by taking a group photo. The end.